Now sometimes as part of an instrument approach you have to fly what is known as a DME arc. Well, what that means is you fly part of a circle around a vortex, keeping a constant radius away from the vortex. Now let's say an instrument approach calls for you to fly inbound towards Julian on the 263 radial, and then when you get 10 miles out, you have to fly the 10 DME arc until you get to, say, the 021 radial. Then you'll follow that radial to the station. Now, if you have a current database in your GPS and the fix you're using is in that database, it's perfectly legal to use an IFR certified GPS as a substitute for DME. So that's what we're going to do. Once again, we'll use the direct function, and we'll set in Julian and hit enter, and we're all set up. Now, we're currently established on the 263 radial flying inbound to Julian. Now, as we come up on that 10 DME arc, what we don't want to do is overshoot it and wind up flying too close to the vortex. So we'll lead our turn by about a half mile. So when we get to 10.5 miles out, we'll turn 90 degrees to the left and start flying at 10 DME arc. Now we're currently on a heading of about 083, and we want to turn left 90 degrees, so we'll take up a heading now of about 353. Okay, now we're nicely established here on that 10 DME arc, but we need to keep very slowly turning to the right. And so the way you fly a DME arc is to keep the vortex roughly off your right wingtip. Now in this case, we're turning to the right, so we'll keep the bearing to the vortex off the right wingtip. Now using the GPS here, we'll figure out the bearing to the vortex, and right now the bearing to the vortex is 090. So we'll turn so that we keep that bearing of 090 on the heading indicator just off the right wingtip. Now you can use the heading indicator to help you out when you're trying to keep the bearing to the station off the right wing. For instance, right now the bearing to the station is 090. Well, notice there's a little airplane in there. All I have to do is keep that bearing of 090 off the right wing of the airplane. Now, if for some reason I happen to get a little too close to the station, I want to fly away from it some. Well, to do that, I'll put the bearing to the station a little behind the right wing, and that way I'll be flying away from the station. If, on the other hand, I get a little too far away from the station, I'd put the bearing to the station a little ahead of the right wing, and that way I'd be flying closer to the station. Now, right now, my DME here tells me I'm about 9 miles from the station, so I've gotten a little too close, and I need to fly a little bit away from it. So I'll figure out my current bearing to the station here with the DME, and it's about 100 degrees. So I'll put that bearing of 100 degrees a little behind this right wingtip, and that way I'll fly away from the station some. Now, if you have a wind, you also need to establish a crab to correct for that. In fact, the reason I might have gotten a little too close to the station is I have a wind from the left. So what I'll do is I'll correct for that, and I'll do that by keeping the bearing to the station a little bit behind the right wingtip, and that way I'll be crabbing slightly to the left to correct for that wind. There's the 10 DME arc again. So my bearing to the station is now about 140 degrees. So I'll keep that 140 degrees slightly behind the right wing, and that way I'll be crabbing for the wind. Now, while I'm flying this DME arc, I'll go ahead and set my OBS to 201, and that way I'll be ready to track that 021 radial inbound to the station. Well, now the bearing to the station is about 160 degrees, and that wind is now pretty much a tailwind. So I'll keep that bearing of 160 right off the right wingtip here. Oops, I'm getting a little too far away from the station. Okay, the bearing to the station is 180 degrees, so I'll put that 180 degree bearing just in front of the right wingtip, and that way I'll fly back to the station some. All right, the OBS needle is starting to move. Well, when it gets to about a half deflection, I'll start my turn to pick up the inbound course. That'll give me about 5 degrees lead on that turn. Okay, now the needle is showing about a half deflection, so I'll take up my heading of 201 degrees and track the 021 radial inbound to the station. You know, for some funny reason, I think that flying DME arcs is just one heck of a lot of fun. Of course, that could be just a personal problem. In any event, with this new skill and the holding skills we talked about earlier, you have two new skills that'll help make you a safe and comfortable part of the IFR system.